Hey, welcome to The Explainer. So we're diving into a really fascinating question today. Can an ancient model of governance, one that worked incredibly well for centuries right here on this continent, actually give us some real solutions for the political messes we're in today? Let's get into it.
Let's be honest. Does it feel like our democracy is working as well as it could? I think a lot of us feel like things are, well, stuck. You see the deep political divides, the gridlock in government, and it's just frustrating, right? It feels like the whole system isn't really living up to its promise.
So naturally, we start looking for answers. And our first instinct is always to look forward, you know? We think we've got to invent some brand new, cutting-edge solution to fix the problems of tomorrow.
But what if that's not the only way? What if some of the most powerful, most profound solutions aren't new at all? What if they've just been waiting for us, hiding in the past, offering a kind of blueprint for a more stable and, frankly, a more just society?
And this is where we find the great law of peace. This was the foundational constitution for the Iroquois League. You might also know them as the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. It's an incredible model that united 6 completely distinct nations under one shared philosophy of peace, balance, and cooperation.
And that's exactly how we're going to approach this. We're going to use the Iroquois League as a historical mirror. We're going to hold it up to our own democracy and see what it reflects back. What are our strengths? And, maybe more importantly, where are the huge opportunities for us to grow?
Okay, first up, let's talk about the architecture of power. This isn't just about some dry rules and regulations. This is about how you build a government that's both stable and actually responsive to its people.
This slide shows a really amazing parallel. On one side, you've got the Iroquois model of federalism. Here, the central government's power actually comes from respecting the independence of its member nations. This lets local communities innovate and stay super responsive. And on the other side, well, that's us, the U.S. system, which is in this constant, ongoing debate over that very same thing, the balance of power between the national government and the states.
So the lesson here is pretty clear. For a huge, diverse country, trying to control everything from the top down can actually smother progress. Empowering local government isn't a sign of weakness. It's a massive source of strength and resilience.
But, you see, that formal structure was only half the story in the Iroquois architecture. There was this other, incredibly powerful element working alongside the government, the clan mothers. This was a council of female elders, and they held enormous political power, including the ultimate authority to appoint and, crucially, to remove the League's leaders.
And this brings up such a critical point. We tend to think of checks and balances as just, the 3 branches of government. But the clan mothers are a perfect example of the importance of informal checks on power. Today, that vital role is played by a free and independent press, by civil society and activist groups, and by all of us as an engaged public, holding our leaders' feet to the fire.
All right, let's move to our next section, because this really builds on that idea. We've talked about the structure of power, but how do they actually make decisions? This is where the contrast with our system today is, well, it's pretty stark.
You see, the Iroquois Grand Council didn't operate on simple majority rule. They aimed for consensus. Now, that doesn't mean everyone had to agree on every single detail. It was a serious process. First, make sure every single voice is heard. Then you deliberate, you debate, you hash it all out. And the goal was to land on a decision that everyone could live with and support. Of course, that's really tough to do with millions of people, but it's the principle that's so powerful.
Think about what this means for policymakers today. In our world of razor-thin majorities, just ramming legislation through, the Iroquois model is a reminder that a 51-49 win might get you a victory, but it doesn't create long-term stability. Real legitimacy, the kind that actually unites people, comes from the hard work of building broad support.
And all this brings us to the leaders themselves. In the Iroquois system, leadership wasn't about accumulating power or getting rich. It was seen as a sacred trust. It was a service to the people, period.
And just look at the qualifications they looked for. It wasn't about your wealth or your political connections, it was about your character. Leaders were chosen because they had wisdom, because they could communicate effectively, and because they had a proven, unwavering commitment to the public good above their own self-interest. So what happened if a leader failed to live up to those standards? Well, they could be dehorned. What a powerful phrase, right? This refers to the antlers chiefs wore as a symbol of their office. So to be dehorned meant you were literally stripped of your authority by the clan mothers. In modern terms, they were impeached and removed from office. It was the ultimate form of accountability. The lesson for us today is just staring us right in the face. Public office is supposed to be a service, And for that to mean anything, you have to have strong, robust, and meaningful ways to hold people accountable, whether that's through ethics commissions, a vigilant press, or something else, to make sure leaders never, ever forget who they work for.
So, let's pull all these threads together. What does this all add up to? Well, it points to maybe the most important lesson of all, the incredible power of a shared vision to create real, lasting unity.
Think about it. The League brought together 6 distinct nations, and it did so without forcing any of them to give up their unique cultures or identities. They achieved unity without demanding uniformity, and that is a huge lesson for a diverse country like the United States. And the tool they used to do this has a direct parallel to our own. The Great Law of Peace was their foundational text, their shared framework that held everything together. For us, the U.S. Constitution is meant to serve that exact same purpose. It's our great law, the thing that's supposed to bind all of our diverse people together.
And when you boil it all down, that's the key takeaway. A stable, just, and united nation depends entirely on its commitment to those foundational principles, not to the political winds of the moment. That shared belief, that fidelity, is the bedrock that everything else is built on.
Now, the Iroquois model isn't some simple, cut-and-paste solution for today's problems, of course, but it is an incredibly powerful mirror. It forces us to ask some really tough questions about how we balance power, how we make decisions, and what we expect from our leaders. And it leaves us with one final thought. If this one chapter from our own continent's history holds so much wisdom, what other incredible lessons can our past teach our future?